So it's pretty much about as how I expected over the last couple of days after the Xbox deal was kind of rejected momentarily, at least momentarily. It's been rejected by the CMA. Now we have this long process of possibly having to wait another year, maybe longer. I don't know, and I think all of us are in the hopes that Microsoft won't have a situation where they play it low key and close to the vest. If this thing's still in the stages where it's kind of waiting there to be picked up, they're going to appeal this process. That could be a lengthy process. They can't just stand pat in that time. They've got to go on the offensive, get other studios. I'm not saying go after publishers, but get some other studios in the interim, because you're going to need them anyway. If you're really going to fulfill your dream of Game Pass being, this all-encompassing thing, you're going to need games, and lots of them. I'm not saying it's a direct one-to-one to Netflix or anything like that. Netflix does an insane amount of content, but I think when you're viewing TV, you view a season and they put all the episodes up at once, so maybe a couple-day period if you binge it. If it's a movie, you're going to watch that movie and then you're on to the next one. When it comes to games, we sink hundreds and hundreds of hours into games, especially if there's a multiplayer component. So when you see that Microsoft was turned down for this, and it was over the most ridiculous reasons too. To be honest with you, when we see that this has happened, basically over the cloud situation, Microsoft only has 5,000 concurrent users in the UK, right? 5,000 concurrent xCloud users in the UK, and so that's what this got all hung up on. Hard to believe, but it just goes to show that there's this other agenda in this nonsensical ramblings by the CMA. There's been some talk that there's even been some illegal things going on there, but one of the things that I kind of notice is you already have some of the media, which, look, I hate to be the guy that's biased media, but look, the day that this thing closed down, right, the day that they got denied, what happens? Game Industry Biz, they come out with this thing. Guess what happened this month 10 years ago? Don't like always online? Deal with it. We've got a console for you. It's called the 360. It's like people want to reopen these wounds, and it's utterly ridiculous. It is utterly ridiculous and asinine, and it goes to show that there is this agenda, and some places just don't like Xbox. That's not to say that everybody doesn't, or that they're all holding some kind of grudge. That would be idiotic to think that, but you have multiple sites already going, well, what's going to happen in the future here? We're going to probably see a situation where Microsoft possibly could sell the Xbox division. Maybe they're getting tired of all this stuff. Maybe they're getting tired of waiting. Maybe they're tired of getting this all run around. They could just sell it off, blah, blah, blah. I think that is something that is getting pushed heavily. But to me, why? Why would they do that? It doesn't make any sense to them. They can, they would lose a ton of goodwill. They would get a lot of anger and things pushed towards them. And I just think that it wouldn't really make a lot of sense, because you've got all this stuff in the pipeline. So really, it would just make zero sense to do that. And I think Microsoft knows that. So when you see these types of articles and you see these types of things come up, I think that it's smart to kind of take them with a grain of salt. The main thing that I kind of am most annoyed by for this whole thing is, why is everybody so obsessed with Microsoft possibly selling it off to begin with? That whole thing never made any sense to me as to why people kind of talk about that to begin with. It's a ridiculous thing. Why would the people want less competition or to see one of the things fail? The way that people are cheering for this absolutely makes no sense. And to be quite honest with you, I think that I kind of scratch my head about it. People literally, I guess, want PlayStation to be the only game in town, the only ones that can do literally anything. Hey, charge whatever the hell they want, have a showcase whenever you want, years, fine. This, they admitted that they're only going to have one AAA first-party exclusive over the next fiscal year, a full year with one. Microsoft does that, hey, they're the worst thing ever. Sony does it, hey, no big deal, because guess what? Their past is different than Microsoft's past, even though obviously, in my opinion, they haven't had they haven't had the most amazing past either. I think obviously there's been the whole sparse years with the PS4, and I think honestly this generation has gone back and forth, and I've mentioned this numerous times. 2020, Sony's first party did better. 21 was Microsoft's, 22 certainly Sony, and 23 clearly Microsoft doing better. So yeah, I think that it's pretty much a wash. It's pretty even as far as I can tell. And going forward, I make this bold claim. I don't think we're going to see Xbox's first party ever put out less than Sony's first party ever again. Like, I think 2022 was the grand hurrah for all of that. And again, I think Microsoft is going into much better waters. They've got a lot of things in the pipeline. Why would they get rid of things now, right? Like, that would completely destroy the brand. Like, you couldn't just sell it off. You couldn't. You wouldn't be able to. You couldn't just go, oh, okay, well, let me sell it to whoever, Google or whoever. You couldn't do that. Right, like the consumer confidence in that would be next to nothing. Besides that, Google shut down Stadia. Like, where would you go with it? Nobody would stick with the brand after that. It'd be like just completely poisoned at that point, and it wouldn't make any sense to keep it going. You might as well just end it, which is why I don't think they're going to do that, because you have all these games in the pipeline. You've got all this stuff. You've got all this money and time invested into Game Pass. You see that out. You see it through. And I think that's what they're going to do. They're going to go into next generation. We'll see what happens then. I mean, they still have another generation to kind of get things under control and see what's going to happen. I feel like they are going to be a little bit delayed on their ultimate goal because of this whole situation with Activision being prolonged. Like, if they would have been able to clear that up and get that passed by this year, we start to see those big Activision games go into Game Pass, and then I think by the start of next generation, people have a serious question. Hey, do I get an Xbox? Do I get a PlayStation? Right? I mean, I think it's a lot bigger question when Microsoft, they've got Diablo, Doom, Halo, Gears, Forza, Wolfenstein, Elder Scrolls, Fallout, Call of Duty. It's like, I think it's a much tougher question at that particular point than what it is right now. So I still think Microsoft is going to pick up some other studios as well, and I hope that kind of people stop running with this whole narrative that it's such a doom and gloom situation, because it's not. Like, Microsoft is going to shake this off. Phil Spencer has already reassured everybody at Microsoft that, hey, you ain't got nothing to worry about. We're going to, keep on keeping on. And I think that's the right mentality for them to have going forward. We need to see them kind of go out there and make sure that everybody knows that they're keeping it real. They're going to be able to come out of the other side of this looking fine. They've conceded the console war many, many years ago to Sony, right? They're like, hey, we're not going to be able to sell console to console, whatever. I guess when it comes to PlayStation, it's like mob mentality. People just buy it because it's PlayStation. That's the only thing that I can come up with, because that company is complete and utter trash, and people still buy it even when they don't have any games. They still buy it, and that's been proven time and time again. So when you see this, you just kind of realize that Microsoft realized that, hey, but guess what? We can still make games, and we can still make money. We can still be successful. We can just have our games on, PC. We can have our games everywhere. We can be played by 500 million people, 1 billion people, whatever the case may be. And I think that's the smart part that they're trying to do, and Sony is terrified of that completely. Anyway, let me know what you guys think. Thanks for watching. Crab Gamer out.